Hello and welcome to another episode of To Be Honest, a show with a clown, a nerd, a duck, and a degenerate.
Hi.
Sadly, Nerd City can't be here today. He's having a few microphone problems. Hopefully he gets it sorted out for next time. But we've got a whole host of topics to talk about today. Sneako, little Asian fella, who's having a beef with that guy, that YouTuber. What's his name?
I thought you were going to do the bit like some small YouTuber.
Little baby YouTuber.
He copies me.
Pretty much everything we're talking about has been all over Twitter. Like, it somehow always happens, right?
Twitter slop! I love it! I can't stop scrolling!
Give me the slop.
I love senseless slop and news that's dead after 24 hours. I love it! I gotta consume! I'm gonna watch Critical and Pyro Live. I gotta slop!
I feel bad for anyone who shows up to actually hear about the interesting topics and they just get this big fucking tray of slop with nothing else.
I like to imagine it is an actual trough of slop and just the little piggies running up to the trough to drink the slop.
Poor bastards.
There's probably just a Twitter logo stamped on the actual trough of slop.
I know we're a podcast that primarily talks about slop, but it's like there's just too much slop. I can't possibly stay on top of all the slop.
We usually nitpick, right? We usually try and choose the actual interesting things out of the slop.
One thing that I remember that was really pretty interesting. I mean, this is going back a few years. The BetterHelp scandal. Do you remember that?
Was it even a scandal, though? Because you were talking about Anthony Padilla earlier, but, like, every time he does an interview with someone, he does BetterHelp, and I was like, wait, weren't they, like, cancelled?
What were they cancelled for?
Well, they weren't cancelled because, I mean, they're probably the biggest YouTuber advertiser at the moment, so definitely not. But there was a variety of some pretty shady shit that they were doing behind the scenes. I mean, it was pretty bad.
I think the therapists they had weren't actually licensed, and it was just random people.
So they were hiring actors on Fiverr to give these fake testimonials. I mean, essentially lying about how good BetterHelp's service was and how BetterHelp was fixing all their mental health problems. And I know that, many companies do this, hire actors from somewhere and say something positive about the product they're shilling, even though they've never purchased it before. But what they're promoting for BetterHelp here is like mental health. I mean, it's kind of like taking advantage of manipulating the most desperate and vulnerable of people, which I think is pretty fucked up, And then several YouTubers made a video on this, even PewDiePie did, and that's when BetterHelp decided to be even more shady and hide the evidence. They deleted all their testimonials, or at least deleted the web page where the testimonials were held. So that's when a lot of YouTubers at the time who were being sponsored by BetterHelp saw PewDiePie's video or saw the backlash from themselves promoting BetterHelp and decided, okay, well, we're not going to be promoting BetterHelp anymore. I mean, most notably, Philip DeFranco. I think he got the most backlash for his involvement with BetterHelp. He was definitely pressured into removing it, but credit to him, he did it, and to my knowledge, he has not promoted BetterHelp again to this day. However, years later, YouTubers are once again promoting BetterHelp. Is it a case that they never saw PewDiePie's video, they don't remember the scandal at the time, or is it just like a case of selective memory?
I mean, to be fair, most people do forget on the internet after like a month. So I would not be surprised.
True, but I don't think that they can just claim ignorance on it this time. Because, again, the biggest YouTuber on the platform at the time made a video about it. I mean, I can't prove it, but I do find it hard to believe that Anthony Padilla has never heard of this before. I think it's unlikely.
How long ago was it? Like 3-4 years ago?
I mean, yeah, it was several years ago, but it's not like ancient history.
I guess there's a whole a whole new generation watching. They wouldn't even know about it.
The Minecraft stands that grew up, they have no idea.
Yeah, literally, they were 5 when that happened, so now they're 9 and yeah.
I think it's a bit high, probably more just 6.
Anyways, this episode isn't about BetterHelp. We'll stop talking about BetterHelp. They just sponsored the interview that Anthony Padilla had with iDubbbz that we saw. What did you think of it, Pyro?
I don't think it was as bad as Twitter thought, but also take a shot every time he says my wife.
It's always like that, though. Twitter makes it sound... The clip going around on Twitter of him saying... His fans came up to him and he's like, wait, I don't like these people, sort of thing.
Hardly the first person to say, I hate my fans, which he didn't even say, actually. He was talking about a small handful of interactions and that was it.
And most of the Twitter interactions were like, why is he acting like he didn't breed that himself? You know, he didn't create those fans himself. But he, in the actual interview, you know, when it's not taken out of context, he straight up says like, I created that. You know, he knows he caused it. It was more just like he realized once it was in his face, he's like, shit.
Yeah, I saw iDubbbz's wife post something similar, how like he basically felt he had like a mirror shown to his face. And then he was just like, yeah, this fan base isn't really for me. You'll always get shit taken out of context. I didn't even think the interview was that bad. I actually thought he would have got shit on a lot more because obviously like I feel after the iDubbbz wife had an OnlyFans, that just almost caused this like schism in his fan base because, you know, you had all the people where it's like, where's the new content cop? He has a wife, women, ew.
A take I saw on our Discord as well, but mostly on Twitter, was people saying like, once he found out being edgy didn't pay, he became woke to make money. You know, I don't think that's the case at all, right? I think what happened is, you know, he obviously changed and grew as a person, but a lot of it happened, you know, off camera, off screen. So when he suddenly came out in support of the OnlyFans, I think that was the big turning point. You know, it was kind of like this, it seemed like a massive left turn, but in reality, it was probably happening off screen for like 2-3 years. It just seemed like really out of pocket at the time.
I think iDubbbz's wife would have like supercharged it a little bit, but yeah,
like
I mean,
you just keep calling it iDubbbz's wife.
I mean, no, that's it's funny. I don't know if we can keep this in the podcast. Probably not. But I've had like an experience with Anissa before where she this is going on like, this is not recent beef. This went on like probably 5 years ago now, 4 years ago. This is back in the phase where I was a fucking moron that would actually like try and make my voice sound deeper, like, how's it going, everyone? Flashbang here.
Oh shit! Is this the first time you're publicly admitting to this?
No,
what, publicly?
Maybe.
I think it is. I think this is.
Yeah, I think publicly.
It's
I don't,
funny.
I want to put this into context. I do not have beef with her. There is no ongoing beef. Nothing at all. Nothing like that.
He has 100% beef with her.
I don't hate iDubbbz's wife. Yeah, she was watching one of my videos on stream at some point, I think, and it was literally called. The video was, I think she had this hate following at the time, literally just because she was dating iDubbbz from these stans that thought that they could like fuck iDubbbz. It's very weird.
Oh really? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, she was being targeted a lot. It was really fucked.
Not surprised.
But like she basically, she was watching one of my videos on stream and it was like this video about Twitch girls or something. And honestly, I haven't watched it in years. And if I watch it now, I'm sure there will be a lot of points I disagree about it. But there was a bit where I got this character in Postal 2 to say, do you respect women? And then the guy laughs. And then I was playing Postal 2 and I blew his head off with a Spaz 12 shotgun. And then it tilted her so much that she paused the video and like went on some rant about me, I think, at some point.
Why was she watching it in the first place?
I probably just hate watching. But I do want to say as well that like I did reach out to her because I said, oh yeah, I saw the clip. And she was like really friendly about it. And she was like, yeah, it was kind of an oopsie. And I was like, well, you were being a moron, but it's whatever. It's water under the bridge. Like she probably supercharged him leaving his edgy phase, but like, is that really a bad thing? Because I'll be honest with you, if he came back and he did Content Cop now, people probably wouldn't enjoy it. They'd be something off about it, but I could be totally speaking out of my ass and he might have huge production value and then it might end up being an absolute banger. Like there would be an audience that'd watch it, but would it be the audience that used to watch it 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe not.
I mean, I agree with Jay. I don't think he was primarily motivated by money, but I think it was a factor, at least, like a minor variable in why he decided he had to change up the content. He's seeing the videos get demonetized, taken down, and that becomes a reason why he decides to change it up. I mean, I think that's fair.
Which one did he lose? His Leafy one, right? That one got actually deleted.
That's right.
Because of the chin insulting.
I think that was his most popular one.
I reckon that would have demoralized him a little bit, but then he kind of like, you know, got back up and he was like, okay, yeah, like I gotta change shit. Because wasn't he doing stuff off the scenes as well, Jay? Like he was working on like a squirrel game or something?
Oh yeah, I was legit just wondering where the hell that... He had this whole art team and everything. It was called Pocket Squirrel. I think it was like maybe like Pokemon type game, but I don't know. Maybe he's still working on it, but I doubt it.
One thing I respect, like his views are definitely less than what they used to be. but he does always experiment no matter what. You know, his What's in the Box that he did 2 episodes of, and then I think the third one he just kind of discontinued that. Do you remember the one where he would like go around LA like interviewing like at the time popular YouTubers, and it'd be kind of like an off the cuff, the Crunchwrap Supremes thing, where like he'd go around and he'd meet like a Vsauce or H3 and stuff. Yeah, it's just like he at the time, and even still now, he's definitely always doing like kind of, you know, breakthrough content, even if the views aren't there.
Well, he did the Airsoft Fatty big documentary. Didn't that come out whilst he was going through the like controversy? You know, like when people first started turning on him.
No, I think it was 2 years ago where that stuff was happening, but the Fatty one was 3 years ago. But again, like he couldn't just keep doing the unboxings and stuff. I mean, he could have, but like, would he have been happy doing it? I mean, talking from personal experience, I've always got to change my content every couple of years or so, or I just end up being fucking miserable. I'm in a good balance now because I can do daily pig slop trough, and then I've got like the actual big projects where it's like, okay, I actually enjoy making this, and then I can use slop from the second to fund the first.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the he did a documentary on that Dax guy, Dax Flame.
And then he had Dax Flame on a game show, The Hot Seat. Do you remember that?
I think that's fairly recent, isn't it?
I like you say remember it, and it was like 3 months ago.
I mean, even Creator Clash as well. Shit. Yeah, there's just so much stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a multitude of reasons why he wants to move on, but I think all of them are fair and reasonable.
Yeah, I think anyone saying Fall from Grace is a cope, because it's like, no, he won't do another content cop. Do one on Sneako, please.
If you're taking a big steaming shit on everyone that was still trying to make the type of content he was making, like holier than thou, I don't do it anymore, so I'm therefore better than you because you still do it. I mean, if he did that, he could go fuck himself, but he didn't do that. I don't think he did that at all.
I don't think you can't even really do that now anyway, right? So
no, I think you can. You absolutely can. Do you mean like in terms of criticism? Because then, you know, you got Critical making a critical video of someone or something just about every day.
Oh no, I mean, he couldn't shit on anybody making content like he used to, because you can't even make content like that on YouTube anymore.
Oh, so you're talking about an ad hominem attack, which makes up a very small percentage of like a content cop video. There's a lot more criticism, which is more critical of the content. So you could still, of course, do that. I mean, that's not in the terms of service. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. And people are doing it right now.
Yeah, I think you were just saying like 2 seconds ago, like Critical, when he does videos on like, you know, some YouTube.
Yeah, and so do you. I mean, you make that type of content as well. You're making that daily slop.
I love slop! I can't stop slopping!
I think a lot of the criticism is coming from people who are still in the edgy phase that like haven't realized they might probably change. You know, so like they're just saying iDubbbz, he's only doing it for money. He didn't just change as a person. I think it's because they're either A, still a teenager, or the B, they never changed. You know, some people just stay edgelords for the rest of their lives. So
I actually get worse every day.
More edgy, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten edgy. I think I've softened over the years. Oh, you fucking missed that joke? Really? Both of you? Fucking hell.
Again? Say it again.
I literally said, I don't think I've got edgy. I think I've got softer over the years.
What's the joke?
It's literally a fucking fat joke.
Is it?
Oh my God.
Why would I automatically equate the word soft with fat?
Yeah, we're meant to equate soft with big, pillowy fat.
Unironically, that was just a test to see like how far I've gone. Yep, it's confirmed.
It's actually insane just how much you've accepted this pure degeneracy now.
And I get to commission as much art as I want.
Have you ever tried drawing your own stuff?
I've thought about it. I just don't have time. I genuinely don't have time to learn how to draw.
Or talent. Or any sort of talent.
Yeah, that one as well. And I kind of have it in my head that this sounds really cynical, Lamau, but I feel like if you didn't do it at an early age, you know, like growing up and stuff, you just won't even get that talent.
I mean, you always have to put the work in. But some people, you know, people will like to say, don't call it talent, that puts me down. But it's like, some people are naturally better at things than others. Like, yeah, it just happens. But if you don't put the work in, then yeah, you're not going to be that great.
I think that applies to anything in life, like, you know, an instrument. Definitely not being a YouTuber, though.
Yeah, no, there's no talent there, guys. Zero talent required to be a YouTuber.
There's no talent. There's no IQ test needed.
No, I think there is actually, because, well, we have this friend called Jonas Fulber Buffet. He's from Lithuania. He's actually a really, really talented editor, and he normally has some pretty interesting things to say. However, he has quite easily the worst voice I have ever heard.
You have to admit, though, it is insane how much effort he puts into his videos, though. Like the editing and stuff is actually insane. Doesn't it take him years to do stuff?
He is very, very talented, but he's got the worst voice you'll ever hear. He's such a fucking interesting character, this guy. I think he is just like a liar. He's just a liar. There's no one else to say that. He claims that his grandparents sold their Lithuanian forest, for a guitar with one string.
That's right, the guitar string.
I think I believe that one. Yeah,
No,
it was
I
like some
didn't believe that.
Lithuanian
You think
fucking...
that his grandparents sold their forest, this Lithuanian forest, for a
One guitar
with
string.
one string.
But I mean, how much would land be worth in Lithuania? Like, who's buying that up?
It's a fucking forest. The lumber alone is worth more than a guitar with one string.
They could have made like 20 guitars from the wood.
Let me just read something Jonas Fulbabafe sent us to in a chat. This is a real story. I mean, it's not real. He's probably lying. But it's like, this is the sort of stuff he types. When I was 4 years old, I already knitted my own Anthro plush dolls. Come to think of it, I did a lot as a 4-year-old. I already knew how to read and write. I saw my first murder when I was 5. It was the Gypsy Mafia era. They were also the only kids my age in the whole neighborhood, so I guess my only potential for friendship. Of course, they're all dead now, or in prison, just like my old friends who died from old age. Old people were my best friends because I didn't like the violence amongst the gypsy kids. Their leader was so cringe. He called himself MacGyver after a damn American TV show. Later on, they smashed my giant Lenin statue head in the backyard with a sledgehammer, then stole a bunch of stuff and declared that my yard is their territory now. Well, I snitched on them to their dad, so he whipped them with a spiked belt right in front of me. We have all kinds of animals enter my yard. Deers, beavers,
Is this all
moles,
one paragraph,
wolves,
by the way?
foxes, lizards sometimes, wild dogs. And we have weasels too. They left their baby and I grew it for a while. Gave it milk through a straw until it learned to drink out of a plate. That was until our drunk grandpa came back from the village. I entered the house, saw the weasels gone, and my grandpa sleeping in his own urine. I grew bunnies too, but my dad did stuff to them. He fed them to us and lied that the weasel got 'em. We didn't have much food, apparently.
Wow, the HelloFresh ad is weird today.
Nerd, we were talking about the iDubbbz interview before I distracted everyone with Jonas Fulbabafe lore. If you have anything to add to that.
I watched that interview when it came out, and the part that people clipped was the part that jumped out at me. And I watched it with Nikki, and I remember looking at her, and I like paused it and talked with her about this, because like the way that he characterized his fans interacting with him in public is something that I talked to him about. And I talked to him about this. I even talked to Sam Hyde about this exact thing, about how your fans will mirror your behavior. They'll adopt your personality as a way of trying to impress you or bond with you. So they'll shout your memes back at you, because put yourself in their shoes. They weren't expecting to see you. They suddenly see you. So the first thing that comes to mind is your memes. It's like, what are you known for? How do I let this person know that I watch their content, that I'm like, in their community? So he was hinting at that they were shouting like swear words at him, and think about what they were. There's like at least 4 that it could be.
The big community memes was like the worst swear words combined in back then.
He wasn't being a terrible person. This was content that was popular, and it made sense for him to for him to include that. Like, it was edgy, it was meant to make you laugh, but it wasn't meant to make a gay person or a black person feel bad. And he had a pretty lengthy defense of if nothing's, what did he say?
Either
Sure,
all of
all
it's
of them are
okay,
okay,
or none of
none
it's
of them are
okay.
Yeah.
That's right. So he had a whole explanation,
Which is bollocks, by the way.
yeah, that kind of fell apart. But he had a justification for being able to say that, being able to say whatever you want. And now I guess he feels differently, and I think that's fair. Like, I think as you grow up, your humor can change, and what you're willing to do to make someone laugh can change. Your brain matures and you look at things differently. The way that he talked about the fans, like that they would be coming out of their basement and the first person they see is him, and then they just reveal that they're a terrible person. It's like, I can't believe that's the way he would look at this. I think he picked a really snooty way to describe someone basically just reflecting his own memes back at him. So if that made him think that person is a terrible person for doing that, then isn't that just an indictment of his own behavior, right?
No, I don't think he called them terrible people. I think he just said they sucked.
He said no. He said he attracted terrible people.
Did he?
Yeah.
I think he said they sucked.
He did openly admit like he was the reason, but with the Twitter out of context clips, they were trying to claim like he was taking no responsibility.
I didn't interpret it to mean he meant everyone. He was just talking about a very select handful of people. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I thought he meant a few people.
Yeah, you can't disagree with it. I mean, you can't disagree with someone saying that part of their fan base makes you feel uncomfortable when when they blurt out your memes in public, especially if they're like antisocial memes. It's like, of course it's inappropriate if you're like in a Walmart and someone is yelling the N-word.
It's almost like the parasocial buzzword as well, because they only see you as a character online, and then when they actually see you, because I've had fans that have just came up to me and said like buzzwords for my videos. Thankfully it's not like anything bad, but yeah, they usually will use stuff that you've said in the past to kind of like almost interface with you. And the way that they usually can try to like interface or interact with the creator is like by saying, some kind of buzzword or something, which is fine. It's just awkward. It's just they're trying to break the tension, awkward tension. But yeah, obviously, if you've had a past of saying
breaking the tension with a hard R.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Like,
I mean, obviously, Jay doesn't show his face, so Jay can't have that. Nerd, have you had that experience where you've seen a fan or a subscriber that has recognized you and you've had a poor and negative interaction with them?
Oh, sure. I mean, someone will like pull out a camera and they'll be recording you right off the jump, and so they're making content, you don't know what it's for, and so you're instantly thrown into kind of a defensive mode.
Well, I've only had like a bare handful of interactions with people that recognize
All
me
in
from
Australia,
YouTube.
were they?
Yeah. But every single one of those interactions that I had there was very, very positive. Every single one.
The same person who would walk up to him and say the Tana Monju meme might also be the same person who would where he runs into Philip DeFranco and he goes like, "What's up, you beautiful bastard?" Or he'd run into Keemstar and he would say, "What's up, Drama Alert Nation?" Or the Alex thing. Now, so maybe that's a bad example, but like, look at someone who, how on Discord you can see what servers you share with like a mutual friend. You can see like where else they are. Like, have a look at how those people talk within the servers that belong to different influencers. Like, they will talk differently. They adopt like a different personality sometimes.
Yeah, you'll notice it with Pyro. I mean, they adopt his language and his way of speaking, which he's taken from 4chan for the most part anyways.
And us.
That's right, and us. Of course, and us.
On one server, someone will be, kind of politically correct and polite because maybe it's a news server. And then on another server that's like $1 Million Extreme, it's a hellscape. So they're saying like edgy things and they're being more antisocial.
They're called social chameleons.
Yeah, there's something natural. Every human being does that to some degree. If someone folds their arms, you fold their arms. If someone starts talking in a low voice, it's natural for a man to like drop his voice down to that level. Like they study that, and that's how people act. Like there's a bit of mirroring, right?
Yeah, it's like in the interrogation rooms in those like JCS videos, you'll always see like the cop do some kind of movement to imitate the suspect, or like vice versa.
Yeah,
it is weird how people do that, right? Because the whole saying about like how everyone wants to stand out, but yeah, literally, if you fold your arms or something, then usually someone will copy you and do it.
I think what iDubbbz was saying was perfectly fair. He just put it in a way that was insulting. I think the better way to say that would be like, because I was making edgy content, when people try to relate to me, they repeat back to me things that are antisocial and completely inappropriate in a public space. So it started to make me self-reflect and think, all right, well, what am I putting out there if when people say hi to me, they're saying a slur? That would have communicated the same thing without him saying the cliche basement dweller, you know, and then putting it all on them, because they didn't come up with it. They're just repeating the thing you came up with, right?
To be fair, he did also say he was the exact same. You know, he went on to then say he was also a basement dweller, also coming out, you know, one time a month. It's not like he was calling his fans like extremely bad, but not taking any accountability sort of thing.
Yeah, and Anissa did come out and clarify. She said that, I don't know if you saw that comment, but Anissa tweeted out that she understands if people don't like them because they've put out content in the world that is terrible and that they feel terrible about. So if you don't like them, they understand. Which is a whole nother can of worms. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but like the way that Anissa has kind of been pushed forward as a spokesperson and an equal partner to iDubbbz has been interesting, because the evolution of that relationship as far as iDubbbz's fan base is concerned. So it started off with like, you know, Anissa was a commentary YouTuber with, let's say like 50,000 subscribers in her own right. And she was putting out pretty good content. Like some of the commentary I thought was good. And a lot of it started to be infused with curiosity seekers from iDubbbz's fan base, people who, you know, weren't getting enough iDubbbz, wanted more. And so they would go over to her channel looking for any sign or any more information about iDubbbz, any little anecdotes or stories, just trying to understand more about this guy's life and what he's working on. And Anissa would sometimes feed that to them. Sometimes he'd walk into the room and there'd be an iDubbbz sighting, or she'd be talking about her personal life and you could infer that it was about Ian.
Do you feel that motivations for doing that were to her own benefit? Were those selfish motivations?
I think that was partly it. I mean, but you're also giving people what they want. So if your audience wants you to talk about your partner, then why wouldn't you give them a little bit of that, unless you're explicitly told not to? So she would talk about it sometimes, and that was the biggest glimpse into his personal life that a lot of people got, because he was pretty buttoned up about some things. So she started to get, you know, like a lot of disapproval from his fan base. The majority opinion of iDubbbz fans seemed to be, or at least the most vocal people, seemed to really not think that was a good pairing, you know, that she was lacking. She wasn't good enough for iDubbbz, you know, almost like they wanted to date him or something, you know? So like there was a lot of resentment of her. And what's happened since then, like he's obviously, there was the big controversy over her OnlyFans and the sort of like right-leaning red-pilled guys thinking that made him a simp or a cuck. They couldn't quite figure out, but it was something bad. And so he came out and had that defensive video about it that it didn't go over very well. She became more like front and center and acknowledged and validated by him as like, look, this is my wife, and I back her and I support her, and I approve and am involved in her decisions. So deal with it. Fair enough, right? But then something's happened where Anissa, you know, she started to react to the continuing disapproval of her in a way that I feel is taking Ian down a bit, where she goes, okay, well, you don't like me? Guess what? Your favorite videos by iDubbbz, I was behind some of the best memes there. I was helping him. So if you liked him, then you liked me. And then so a lot of people are just going like, oh, all right, well, maybe we don't like either of you then. So it's like that didn't really help her too much or help him. She's talking about the comments that he made in that interview and saying, here's what he really meant. What he meant was the mirror that was being held up to him by fans interacting with him in that way is something that has made him feel bad. And we've put out a lot of content together that now we think is really cringe and that we were terrible for doing. So if you don't like us, we understand. So wow, we've really evolved from her being someone who was in the sort of like the off stage to the iDubbbz content to brought on stage in the iDubbbz content. And now she's saying, okay, well, if you don't like us anymore because that content was basically evil of us, then that's fine. And it's like, no, people still like that old content. What we don't like is the snooty new attitude.
Oh, I completely agree.
Those are still beloved videos that that no one is really canceling him over or angry about. In the context that they came out in, they made sense. They very influential on the targets that he was talking about, and of all of the derivative content made by commentary people.
I don't even think they were edgy. I don't even think the word edgy should apply. There were maybe 4 or 5 different things, examples that you could point to and say those were edgy. What was the worst thing he said in the Leafy video, for example? What? That he has a small chin. It's just like, that's it. Fucking hell, who cares?
It's technically against the rules now. And I guess what we're seeing from both H3 and iDubbbz is they've grown up. They don't want to do that anymore. They certainly are willing to play by the rules, and they look back at that stuff and they don't feel proud of it, which, yeah, hey, fair enough. If they don't like the content anymore, I get it. But what struck me about this tone, it reminded me of the tone in this interview where it's pointing at the fan as the problem rather than the content as the problem. Even if that's what he meant, even if he really does know, hey, I came up with this meme that they're yelling back at me, and he didn't say it that way, and he should have, and he would take it back probably if he could. The way that it's expressed, it just reminded me of like a band that intentionally comes up with a radio single, something that's going to be a hit song, and then it becomes a hit song, and everybody like wants them to play it continuously, and then they start to get this disdainful attitude towards the people who like the hit song, and they're like, you don't even get us. If that's your favorite song, you're not even a real fan. Like, I hate that song and I'll never play it again. And it just makes you feel bad, like they gatekeep themselves. And I felt like that's what he was doing. He was like that band that thinks you're an idiot if you like the song that was on the radio.
Like, if he was truly ashamed of it, if he was expressly saying, I'm ashamed by this content, why hasn't he removed it? Because as far as I can see, the videos are still up, they're still monetized. If I am truly ashamed of something that I've done in the past, I don't keep the content up making money from it. So no, sorry, bollocks, not buying it.
One of them was deleted by YouTube, so the Leafy one
by YouTube, the Leafy one, but
yeah.
I mean, the Tanamoja one, the Keemstar one, I mean, they're not removed.
It sounds like he's open to the idea. He called it disposable content, so maybe he even will. That's sad. That's kind of sad.
The video he references is the Fine Bros one. That's the one he had the biggest problem with. The one he feels... Does he use the word ashamed? I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, that's the one he has a problem with, the Fine Bros one. But that one's still up, so... No, bollocks.
He mentioned that in an interview on the Create Unknown several years ago, like that was one of the moments where...
Yeah, it seemed familiar. I remember him saying the same.
Yeah, that's what made him realize... Running into someone at VidCon made it real for him, where it's like, oh yeah, these are real people that I'm attacking.
I actually had something similar because I made a Fine Bros video, and Colossal voiced it actually, fucking back when the whole thing came along. And then a couple years later, they invited me to have the opportunity to have people look at my memes. So I was corresponding with one of them. It was just funny. I was like, do I bring up the elephant in the room that I completely shat on them years earlier? But I didn't bother bringing it up, and I assume they just they probably knew, but it was just funny. Just like, shit, I was a bit of an asshole. Colossal, do you think he looks like Sindre from God of War, one of the Fine Bros?
Yep.
If I bring the photos up, it's actually kind of fucking scary how similar they look.
Those fucking documentaries are also like, they're lolcow material. Those are not entirely innocent documentaries. He's finding people who you're meant to have a bit of a laugh at. Right? Like, he's finding Napoleon Dynamite style people. The fact that he's recording them and going into their house at all, it's like you're expecting to, and you're meant to find that they're living in squalor or there's something wrong with them. Like, these are people who are like touched in a way. So,
are you talking about Airsoft Fatty?
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's bait?
Well, I think it's just making fun of them in a subtle way.
It's a very difficult argument to make if you're not explicitly saying something. And in order to make the transition without actually physically making fun of them, he's going to find someone that has been made fun of and make a documentary with them.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're saying you're going to make fun of someone inadvertently while disguising it behind a positive message? I mean, that's what FouseyTube used to do. That's probably the most cowardly thing you can do. Do I think iDubbbz is doing that? I mean, no, I don't think he's doing that at all.
I thought that the video about Sam Hyde was going to be kind of well, I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure it was going to be respectful, but what Sam sussed out, and maybe he was being paranoid, but the way that Sam reacted to that, where he simultaneously recorded his own version of it just in case, it deliberately obscured his personality. He set up all of these, fake situations to not really let him get close to the truth. Sam was worried that iDubbbz was coming there to expose him, to sort of like, he's since said that iDubbbz was trying to show 4chan that he's not a cuck and to embarrass Sam Hyde to get respect back. That's what Sam thought Ian was doing. Sam felt, even when he watched the previous documentaries, he's like, okay, the format of this documentary is to find a lol cow and to subtly expose what's ridiculous about them or why people find them interesting, but in an ironic way. There was still an element of mockery that's the subtext to those documentaries, I think.
I mean, is that what Sam thinks it was?
Yeah, and I asked him, I was like, dude, I didn't know that this was what was coming your way. I go, that moment where he said to you, do you remember this email exchange where you were kind of shitting on me as a smaller creator? You told me, I'll take it down if you can squat 2 plates. I'm like, was he kidding? Oh, and then where he goes, I was coming here to show that you're an asshole. I was going to expose you're an asshole. I'm like,
I didn't like you.
I'm sorry.
You're an asshole.
I'm sorry.
You're getting punked. I'm gonna make you look like an asshole.
Really?
Which isn't hard to do.
Is that really the case?
No.
Was he kidding in that moment? And Sam goes, no, he wasn't kidding, man. It's like, damn. It did seem like there was some resentment that Ian was getting him back for a previous slight.
Guys, sorry, I know you're on a story right now. I literally have to go in 15 minutes.
Yeah, we're wrapping this up, I guess. So clearly there's an effort by him and Anissa to kind of put the content iDubbbz was well known for in the rearview mirror and put a lot more emphasis on Creator Clash and running an event that can have sponsors and that everybody will go to every year and socialize. We see now that people are kind of auditioning to get on a card. It's becoming like a legitimate spotlight that people want to get into. So it's like Critical and Sneako aren't on the card, but are they trying to lobby to get into it now with like just fighting on Twitter?
Well, Critical, Charlie, whatever he wants to be called.
What's up, guys? It's
He's got many
Critical.
names. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. He
He
said that
actually
he'll never
admitted
fight
yesterday
anyone because...
he's copied all my videos as well. He actually admitted that. He took the stream down very quickly, but it's true. It's true.
That is true. That is very true. He copies Pyro. That's true. He has said that he's not going to be fighting Sneako anyway at any point because of the 7-inch difference in their height.
Which is fair enough.
Sneako, I've met him. He's actually very tall, a lot taller than you'd think.
Oh, you've actually met him. Did you meet him before he started slurping Andrew Tate every 5 seconds?
Yeah, it's so I met him before like the Andrew Tate red pilling phase, and I've been very quiet about it because obviously like just seeing him get ass blasted on Twitter like every day because I don't follow anyone in the Tate circle apart from like Andrew Tate himself. So most of the people I follow in the YouTube sphere, i.e. like the critical sphere, they all fucking hate him, right? So they're just like, rent-free about him every single day. I mean, he does put himself in that position a fair bit, to be fair, but I've mostly been quiet about it because I've met him in person and I've done a lot of lurking and stuff, and I can't find a single instance of him like renting me on a stream. So I kind of thought like, I'll wait for him to say something first before I kind of, because I've met him in person and we went out drinking and shit, and I feel like to sit behind my computer or my phone and just talk shit about him like everyone else is, it feels a little bit cowardly, even if he might deserve it. So yeah, I just kind of kept my mouth shut about it.
Back when you met him, he was like the self-help guy, right? And
well, for men, yeah, he was doing like the 1-minute podcast thing, and that was really interesting. So it's set up usually like in somewhere in New York. It'd be like in a subway entrance, and he'd grab random people that getting off the subway and just kind of interview them. And it'd be sometimes it'd be pretty heavy stuff, like are fat people worse than like skinny people? Like kind of loaded questions that would spark like kind of a debate. And it was interesting because he always got like a particular group of people, and he wasn't just like he'd sit there and let people say their piece and leave. He would also try to like actually catch people out and stuff and have his own input. So it was really interesting. I loved that. That's how I became a fan of him. And then I saw he was in London. I was like, oh shit. So I went with Sive, PewDiePie's editor, and we went there, and he was just in the middle of a circle with like a bunch of his fans, and then I made my way in. He had me in. We had like a pretty decent interaction. It was obviously in front of fans and that, like this circle, so it wasn't like a genuine one. It was more like kind of playing up for the crowd and that. But yeah, he was super nice. And then I basically said to him, like as a joke in front of everyone, like, you know, I'll come. Yeah, oh, that's right. I'll stay for the interview if you follow me back. And that was kind of me doing that just so I can get in contact with him, because I was like actually kind of, it's so weird because I was doing YouTube for so long, I was actually kind of fanboying out a little bit.
What was your interaction with him? Because I remember you mentioned you guys met up. I don't know if you drank, but you met up afterwards.
We met him with my girlfriend. No, he has a girlfriend. No, I can't fuck him. And
Did he try and ask if you could watch him?
No, I knew. I didn't even think of that setup. Jesus. But no,
could you have sex with my girlfriend, please?
I asked him if he wanted to go to a bar with Sive and my girlfriend, and yeah, he just said yeah, and then we got talking for a little bit. No, it was pretty genuine, pretty nice. And then he included that he met me and Sive in like a subsequent like in his Sneako. Sneako was like his alt channel, his second channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't get it, because when I met him, he was such a fucking nice person. He really was. I didn't get any bad vibes from him. There wasn't like, it was like he knew that the kind of content he actually mentioned that he knew me from like the fucking LT when I promoted LT Corbis, you know, the one that became like alt-right and just very weird and stuff. Yeah. So he said like, oh yeah, no, like I remember you kind of made her famous, right? And then I made videos on her, and that's how I got famous. I was like, oh shit, okay. It's just the circle of life. But yeah, no, when I met him, he was really genuine, and that still stays with me now.
You seem to have more of a personality back then, right? I find ironic just because he'll now call, you know, anyone that doesn't follow him an NPC, but he's almost become his own sort of NPC.
Pyro, in your opinion, having met him, how much is the sort of stuff he's saying online at the moment a sort of act in order to gain attention?
I genuinely think it's reactionary. I think he has the mindset of no news is bad news. If no one's talking about him, then that's something bad.
I think he's a grifter.
In one of these circles he's been in LA or Dubai or whatever, he's definitely been sat down by someone, probably a lot of weed involved, and they've basically just said, like, you know, you need to make sure someone is talking about you every day, because if you're not, you're falling off. Because I see it in Andrew Tate's like infomercial videos and shit, like he's that fucking guy in The Simpsons, like selling shit to you. It's like he will basically always say getting big isn't the problem, it's falling off that's like the biggest thing you need to avoid. That's like keeping it going. And some people just think, yeah, if I keep, you know, talking shit online, people talk about me. With Critical making a video and then calling him a worm, he's being ratioed into heaven, but like it's
still attention.
That's still like a W. Yeah. What is the worst thing that can happen to you as an e-celeb or an influencer?
Grooming allegations.
Apart from everyone hating you, what is the thing that's worse after that? The even worse thing.
If you become known as a cuck, that someone else is fucking your girlfriend or your wife.
Well, I was more thinking falling off, but then I also thought about being accused as a pedophile as well. So yeah,
I was thinking, that small little thing might be a bit worse, actually.
Yeah. No, I thought it was tying into Sneako, because that's what
from experience. That's quite bad.
That's what people keep. I'm looking at his trending on Twitter, and like every meme is about someone fucking his girlfriend or him going to watch someone fuck his girlfriend.
Yeah, I've never seen him say anything bad about me, so I kind of kept the
I know his editor. I remember his editor was like, "Nah, I can't fuck with him after the fairy stuff," and it's like, fair enough, you know.
Oh, that's right. His editor was like, "Nah, fuck that. I was on the cancel Pyro train." Like, probably wasn't actually on it, just more like, "No, he's a fucking weirdo. I'm not watching him," which is fair. Where did Critical say he's not going to fight Sneako? By the way, I haven't actually.
He said it in the he said it in the very first time he responded to Sneako, and then he said it again when he's responded like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I remember KSI was atting him as well, Sneako, saying that Sneako's already dodging someone at the minute or something.
Yeah. The funny thing though is because, you know, Charlie made the video, I think it was 3 months ago now. And then that was it, right? And then he just lived rent-free in Sneako's mind for the last 3 months. Like every time, you probably saw that collage Sneako has of like soy YouTubers who've insulted him. Every time he goes live, he posts that, or he posts this image of Sneako holding a dog on a chain, but he's put Critical's face on the dog.
I hate to say it, if I watched one of these streams, I'd just fucking laugh. I think it'd be hilarious. Obviously, I wouldn't believe anything he says, but I just feel from like the amount of reaching and coping, that just sounds. You've actually sold me on watching it now. That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, he basically would always he's been renting Critical for 3 months, and then Critical finally made another video on Sneako. I mean, Sneako got what he wanted, right? He's probably been trying to bait Critical for 3 months, and it's finally worked, and he's getting, again, very negative attention, and he's getting ratioed to hell, but he is getting, tens of millions of views on his tweets.
Yeah, he'll be getting hate views and hate watchers, but again, like, it doesn't matter because he's got his core audience, and like some of the very few, like probably less than 1% of the people renting Sneako will probably end up being converted as well, like actually becoming Sneako fans.
A bit of a counter to the negative attention is I think he does still let his ego get harmed, because he is actively blocking people who ratio him. So, he is, he's getting a lot more views because of ratios, but he is blocking, I don't know if you know Extreme Blitz, but he got blocked because he got,
People think you're Extreme Blitz.
So Sneako obviously, yeah, that's funny. He does block people who ratio him. I did actually reply to Sneako recently, and he didn't block me, so maybe that's still coming, but I kind of jumped on it. I was like, oh, everybody's ratioing Sneako, I may as well jump on the train.
Do you think Andrew Tate is what caused him to get removed? The fact that he got associated with repeating things Andrew Tate had said?
Yeah, but I think Sneako was almost doubling down further than Tate was. Like Tate's been doing the same thing for years, but Sneako kind of jumped on that train and did it a lot worse, or just, a lot more. He was doing so many videos, I remember, before he got banned, like 4 videos a day. Obviously, an editor was putting them up, but it was always those...
It was insane.
I was always like, how
was...
is he still on YouTube? Because it was always like... It was the same talking points, women are sluts, exactly same thing. And he got away with it for months before YouTube actually cracked down on it.
Yeah, that was like I do remember before Sneako got banned, when he started uploading onto his Sneako channel, the live stream one, and oh my god, yeah, it was like, I think it peaked at like 7 uploads a day. I mean, yeah, it was only like clips and stuff and reactions, but yeah, I just thought like, god damn.
But the funniest thing with Sneako is how his talking point is, well, I think Critical says the exact same thing. He has like 3 insults, which is soy boy, bot, and NPC. And then, most of the fan base he cultivates is still being a different version of a bot. Like they're still saying, they'll call everyone a bot, but then they themselves are just parroting the exact same dribble. When I replied to Sneako, I had a few interesting ones. One guy was claiming he made millions, like millions of money, and he spent a whole 36 hours replying to people replying to my tweet. Like, I don't think this guy has a side job, right? He's spending all his time defending Sneako. And then another guy was doing a beatbox dedicated to Sneako. Like, it was just the funniest collection of people trying to say that their lives are better than everyone else's, and Sneako's doing a good thing.
All right, boys, it's past midnight. I got a dip.
So, Pyro, your insight on Sneako was just firing a shot across the bow that's like, well, I got something to say, but because he said something nice about me, because he's never said anything bad about me, I'm not gonna say anything bad about him. Good night.
No. I said earlier, like, if I join in the dogpiling right now, even if it's justified, because I've met him and I've talked to him personally, even if it was just for a day, it feels a bit cowardly on my part.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like because I'd only be doing it because other people are doing it. That's the only reason I've been dogpiling.
If you say something, he'll add you to the little soy boy collage he has.
I'd love that. I think that'd be hilarious.
Say something now, he can put you in it. Sneako bad.
Well, Niall, one last thing. What's your take on Sneako's persona now versus what you interacted with privately or in person?
I mean, when I met him, obviously it was in front of his fans and that. He was a little bit in character, but then when I met him afterwards at the bar, yeah, no, he was totally fun. He was just pretty chill. I didn't really get any like bad vibes off him or anything, but yeah, like the way he acts now is...
Well, do you think when you interacted with him afterwards that he was being genuine, or do you think he was still putting up a front or a character?
He was just nice. When you have like an interaction with someone that you can't really remember too much of it, so you just kind of think like, okay, well, it wasn't really... Like, there was nothing notable, right? You come away from it and think, oh, that guy's kind of weird, or that guy's kind of bad, or that guy's kind of slimy. Like, I didn't think that. Like, I'm not defending his current actions or the way he's like, just being like a fail troll.
Sneako fan. You hit it here first, guys.
I'm actually a tier 3 on his Patreon, but don't tell anyone that.
Because at a certain point, when you know somebody and you've collaborated, like, you would send them a DM and let them know if there's something they should like adjust or correct rather than tweet at them, right? Because you can reach them.
Yeah, because obviously me reaching out to Sneako isn't going to fucking do anything, right? It's not going to be like, oh, I've seen the error of my ways. Okay, I'm so sorry,
He'll call you a bot
Pyrocynical.
probably anyway.
But if you're friendly with him, you might be like, oh, hey, don't say this. You'll get banned, rather than be like, Sneako should be banned.
Yeah, too far gone now.
I did give Sneako some tips, but nothing like that. I was basically just pushing him like.
Did he follow them all? This was the tips you gave him.
Yeah, just
you're like, yeah, become a woman hater.
Yeah. Like my DMs get leaked. I was the one goading him on to do a video on Charlie. All
You're the man
me.
behind the curtain. It was all pyro.
Okay, this is from me, 25th of July, 2022. Fuck Critical, little bitch copying me. You should do a video on his ass. End his career, Sneako.
You know someone's going to believe that too. Colossal, can you edit it so it's clear? It doesn't sound like it's a joke. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell Sneako to do another video on Critical. Bye bye.
So sadly, Pyro has had to go because he has just realized that he wasn't using a VPN. Express VPN sponsor today.
No,
You've heard me talk about how important it is to have a VPN to protect your online privacy. But choosing a VPN you trust is equally as important. Now, I like to do research on my sponsors, and I only recommend brands to my listeners that I believe in. I can say with full confidence that ExpressVPN is the best VPN on the market. Here's why. Number 1, ExpressVPN doesn't log your activity online.
we must be doing
Lots
well
of
because
cheap
they
or
came back.
free VPNs make money by selling your data to advertisers, but ExpressVPN doesn't do this. They even developed a technology, Trusted Server, that makes their VPN servers incapable of storing any data at all. Number 2, speed. ExpressVPN
so
now
glad this
uses
is short.
Lightwave,
I am
a new
so
VPN
glad.
protocol they engineered to make user speeds faster than ever. I've tried many VPNs in the past, and they can sometimes slow my connection. But ExpressVPN is always blasting fast and lets me stream videos in HD quality with zero buffering. The last thing that really sets ExpressVPN apart is how easy it is to use. You don't need any technical skills to get set up. Just fire up the app and tap one button to connect. Even your grandparents could do it. And it's not just me saying this.
Copy points
CNET,
are suggested
Business
only.
Insider,
Make the copy
Verge,
your own.
And many other tech journals rate ExpressVPN the number 1 VPN in the world.
Oh my god, we're already at the
so
end. Holy
protect
shit.
yourself with the VPN that I use and trust. Use my link, expressvpn.com/TBH today, and get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/TBH. Visit expressvpn.com/TBH to learn more.
So we have to give you first person endorsement.
This
as
is an
well?
easy one. Yeah, the personal endorsement is easy because I actively use this every single day. I use it to watch Netflix. I mean, it's your Netflix technically, but I steal it.
Oh, you steal my Netflix? I thought you stole something.
I think the
else.
only one that I actually have is Amazon Prime, and the rest I'm stealing from every single person I know. So I'm stealing Disney Plus, I'm stealing HBO Max, that's from Pyro's girlfriend. I've barely even spoken to Pyro's girlfriend, and I'm stealing her HBO Max. And I'm using ExpressVPN to watch it.
Yeah, I think you actually did a good job of selling it because I think this was our best selling sponsor and they've come back. We can say that, right? That they've come back to sponsor the show for the next 12 months. So
Yeah, once a month for the rest of the year. We're doing ExpressVPN.
thanks to everyone that's actually using the thing.
I mean, good. I'm very glad that they're using it. They really should use it.
I think it's because our viewership has a lot of people who want to be different personas online.
Like they use Hong Kong for like their alligator furry for soda. They use a different country for the other one.
ExpressVPN is excellent. I honestly use it literally every day. Netflix or places like that, they have different shows depending on which country you're in. If you watch literally every single show and movie in your own country on Netflix,
If you have that much spare time.
if you have this much, you probably do, because people have way too much time. But if you do, if you've seen everything or seen everything that you like or think you would like anyways, just use ExpressVPN to switch to another country, and instantly you've got like hundreds of new TV shows and movies that weren't there in the country that you were watching before. Got like $150 worth of Netflix, and that's just one platform. I mean, fuck! You then go to Amazon Prime, and suddenly there's more shows and movies there. You go to HBO Max, suddenly more movies and shows there. Everywhere you look. You know, so ExpressVPN is adding so much, or just any VPN in general, but especially ExpressVPN because they're paying us, but they add so much value to what you already have. I mean, it's such a good investment. And it's not expensive, especially if you use code TBH.
It usually works out to be like $3 a month.
It's
It really
nothing.
is not a lot at all.
Speaking of watching Netflix with an ExpressVPN, Nerd has told me to watch this show called Ancient Apocalypse.
6 parts, I think.
No,
Yeah.
it's 8. It's 8.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Colossal knows more than you did that, maybe.
Unlucky. Well, I watched it just yesterday, so my memory is somewhat fresh. I don't know why he asked me to watch it, mostly because he's a doomer. He's a fucking doomer, and this is about the world ending.
Well, that's better than being a Kuma like Pyro, you know.
True.
One letter more is
I will
better.
certainly not argue that, but Nerd City is definitely a doomer. And so it's about an ancient apocalypse.
Pseudoscience type stuff.
Well, he claims not to be a pseudoscientist. He claims to be just a journalist, but that is a kind of coping mechanism, at least in my opinion. Basically, to dispute this guy, you need to be somewhat of an architect. Sorry, not an architect. You need to be like an archaeologist.
Archaeologist.
You need to be a geologist, you need to be an archaeologist, or you need to be an astronomer. Or you need to have a lot of experience in this to dispute anything that he's saying. So obviously I can't do that.
Oh, I just used Google.
That does not count. That does not count. But so obviously I can't dispute anything that he's saying in this series.
I can.
He can't. But it is a conspiracy theory by definition. But also I think it's not that far-fetched. It's not the most insane thing I've ever heard.
What part would you think is the conspiracy?
He's claiming that an ancient civilization used to live before we were hunter-gatherers after Ice Age 2. Not the movie, but like after the second Ice Age.
Do you think that he's saying that, I guess he's kind of saying that like the archaeological orthodoxy might know that that's true and they're all hiding it? That's not really his main point though.
Every single episode he's talking about archaeologists having this one theory and they're just very critical of everything he says and any idea that he tries to put forward. And he's clearly got a coping thing going on there and he's clearly butthurt about it. That much was evident.
A lot of the theories confuse me a bit because a lot of the times they'll claim this is what they're hiding from you. But I'm always just like, it's the same with like flat earth stuff. I'm always kind of like, why? Like, why would the government be hiding this from us? I mean, I get it would undo a lot of history that we, established history that we now know. But what would they have to gain by being like, actually, humans were around a little longer? Is it like to stop, fear mongering? Is that what they would be doing?
I couldn't understand it because his gripe was not even with the government. It was with archaeologists. And I just couldn't believe or buy the story that archaeologists were attempting to cover this up and silence him and censor him.
To be fair, you saying that, I could actually see them being so snobby that they're like, all the things I've learned is a lie? No, let's ignore it. I could actually see that now that you've said it.
Not everything that they've learned is a lie, but just like this one part.
Yeah, but they would just don't want to be proven wrong, like their life's work.
I equate it to like he got loads of different jigsaw puzzle pieces from different jigsaws, and then he tried to smash them together in a way that made sense. For example,
let me provide a bit of context.
Let me just finish this part. So one of the most interesting things to me in this series was the point he made, the observation he made about all religions and myths and legends and different folklores having certain stories within them that are very much in common, and so in common that it's basically impossible for it to be a coincidence or to be considered coincidental. So these are stories that always involve a snake, they always involve a flood, they always involve a man or a woman or a god or a giant, depending on the story, that comes and visits them, traveling normally by boat or just suddenly fucking appears, and teaches them about civilization or how to become civilized, and to do this in various ways through agriculture and architecture, and so on and so forth. So his theory is that it's not a coincidence. It's because of this ancient civilization of which there is no trace of other than in stories. And because humans have amnesia, they've forgotten about this ancient civilization called Atlantis. Well, it might not be Atlantis, but that's the place that Plato's grandfather said it might be. I get confused by that part. And it might have just been somewhere else. But essentially, people from this civilization traveled to all different parts of the world and warned them about this apocalypse, which is going to be in the form of a comet, which is interpreted as a sky snake, which is then going to cause the sea levels to rise, which is the flood, to warn us in the future of this ancient apocalypse where we're all going to die.
It's a fascinating way of looking at things. It's catching a wider trend that's happening right now where people's trust in institutions is at like an all-time low. So the counter-narrative people keep getting proven right or to have been onto something in all different areas. Like we're in a very strange time where like the internet is allowing people is allowing information to pass in a way where people are beginning to understand that they've been fed lies about certain things. So even in history now, there's this character's been around for a while, Graham Hancock. He's written popular books since the 80s, but Joe Rogan has brought him to everyone's attention with a new audience, re-examining history with a very fringe, counter-narrative viewpoint on things. This idea that as a kid, you look at pyramids being all over the world, and your first common sense idea might be like, isn't that weird that there are pyramids?
Aliens.
Yeah. Isn't that weird that there are pyramids in Egypt, in China, in South America? Were they all connected somehow? Were they copying each other? And you'll find out eventually that they were built at different periods of time, and maybe it's just something that humans do. But Graham Hancock's theory was maybe civilization was rebooted after a global cataclysm. So he starts trying to build evidence of, well, what's kind of strange about the series is it seems like he changes the goal from the start of the series to the end. It starts off with him saying, I'm trying to find evidence of a lost civilization. And what that turns out to be is he's looking for evidence of survivors of Atlantis going around globally and as missionaries, almost like teaching people how to do civilization, how to advance agriculture and to build monolithic structures. But what I think is kind of the unspoken subtext of him looking at that mythology of the visitor coming with advanced technology is like that leaves it open to it maybe being aliens as well. And I think he's posited that theory before.
No, he doesn't. What he's saying is far more plausible than aliens.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's not insanely far-fetched where if this became a fact and this became part of our actual history, I'd be like, oh, okay.
What frustrates historians and archaeologists is that Graham Hancock is doing cross-discipline theorizing that can't be disproven. So the way a scientist wants to look at something is like, I have to be able to disprove your theory. Like there's this famous line by a mathematician, like, you're not even wrong. It means like, I can't even prove that you're wrong. Like it's an untestable theory. So if you're saying that some mysterious figure came along and told everybody this, we might never know. It's like, it's impossible for us to disprove that. So that's the one aspect that when people are trying to debunk this, they can't really address, is the actual mythology of this person with the handbag that came from the sea.
What I would like to see is a kind of actual archaeologist or geologist or astronomer who makes an actual response to this and debunks everything, or at least attempts to debunk
I spent all night
everything.
watching that. I've actually watched probably...
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I probably watched like 10 hours of criticism of him. So I've seen...
Oh, I quite like to see that. From an actual professional, though, not someone who's just like...
Yeah.
Who thinks they know. Okay, good.
There's one by Stefan Milo that's excellent. He's got 2 videos about Graham Hancock that do a pretty good job poking holes in the theories that are testable, where there is, you can see that his dates don't line up and it doesn't make sense. But there are also people who just sort of attack him as a man. And then there's a kid who's very unlikable, in my opinion, Minuteman Milo, who he's copying some of the worst parts of iDubbbz's content. That's very regrettable. The zoom in, belching, sipping water, burping noises, kind of bullshit. It's like, like I did that once in a video, and it's like the worst. I wish I'd cut it out, but it was just kind of the meme at the time. It's like everybody burps on camera. He's making sipping noises, and he's trying to show like how frustrated he is by drinking water. Anyway, he has a tone towards Graham Hancock that I think is just confirming what Graham says in the beginning of that series. And I was put off at first by Graham saying, speaking of archaeologists as if they're all in agreement on something, they're this monolithic sort of group of people that are all against them. I was like, come on, like don't do a they thing.
For a Netflix series, a Netflix documentary rather, I don't think it's very well produced. I think it's kind of amateurish.
I only watched one episode, but there was so many shots of like slow motion, just him walking. And it was just like, you could be showing so much more interesting things to do with the topic. He had an archaeologist on to like back up his points. And I looked into it afterwards, but he was basically like just kind of speed running through it. He's like, okay, well, we did some testing. Doesn't clarify exactly what testing. He's like, core testing. He's like, and we found that this man-made material was 20,000 years old. The archaeologist himself has been contested by like 30 other archaeologists, and the carbon dating he used is unpublished and undisclosed. Like, it's basically, he's like, hey, just take my word for it. It was 20,000 years old, guys. So for him to then, use that to draw a conclusion and basically confirm this material is that old, I don't know. I just kind of threw me. I was like, I don't watch the rest of it.
He brings on Joe Rogan within the series to add further credence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the last episode. Yeah, and the episode before that, I mean, even worse than a discredited geologist. He brings on someone who's never studied geology and yet does this for a hobby, and like this is his source, adding credence to his own theory. After I watched the series, I looked at the Guardian article. I don't know if you've seen that, nerd, that was particularly critical of him and saying it's like the most dangerous, the most dangerous series on Netflix. And I was like, what? But also at the same time, that same article mentions that Graham's own son works for Netflix. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Well, that's how he got the series, I reckon.
Graham's son actually is important to this situation for the fact that it got made, but also for the fact that people are accusing Graham of being a racist or a Nazi. I was listening to the criticism of him, and
they always do that.
Yeah. So there's a number of either overtly calling him a racist or dog whistling that, well, these theories of yours do line up with Nazi theories. So like, I'd hate it find out if you're a Nazi, but his son is black. And his son has even written a book about how difficult it was to grow up black and face racism in the UK. So the idea that Graham is a secret Nazi doesn't hold a whole lot of water. But they have tried that tactic. Here's what they're reacting to and thinking is racist. If there is a massive monolithic structure that we don't understand how they did it, it's so amazing, it's a wonder of the world, and someone is coming along and suggesting that the people who built that didn't really build it. A transfer of technology happened from someone who essentially like represents a colonizer, someone who came from a more advanced civilization and passed on this technology, and that's how they were able to build it. So that instinctively feels like it has some sort of racist implication. If you're saying that those people were too simple to do this on their own and it took someone from Atlantis to teach them how to do it, like you're stripping away the pride that an Egyptian might feel in their heritage.
That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard.
It's undermining the ingenuity of the locals who built those structures, right? If you're trying to reinvent the mythology of how they were created and retell the story of how they were made by somebody came from outside and told them how to build it. I can understand why locals would be offended by that, but the reaction to it is like, are you protecting the fact that you're not sure they did, right? Like the fact that we don't know how the monolithic structures for certain were built, and they still amaze us even today with laser cutting technology and massive construction equipment. We still don't know how those big rocks got moved around. So there is, I guess, there is a vulnerability there for Egyptians that someone could come along and explain it in a way that isn't so flattering to Egyptian architects, right? In the course of the series, Colossal, didn't you see some like towns and digs that you didn't really know, like Gigliotepe and that location in Turkey? Had you ever seen those before? Because I hadn't seen that ant farm underground. That was amazing to me.
I have seen something like that before, actually, in Petra, Jordan. It's not exactly the same, but similar.
One of the most important takeaways from the series is, so it starts off with him saying, I'm looking for evidence of a lost civilization. And I don't think the series comes anywhere near close to proving that theory true. But the question that does have some value now is, are some of the markings and the astrological alignments of these civilizations that had survived catastrophic events, potentially meteor strikes and floods, were they meant to warn future generations? Like maybe not even us, but it was meant to warn like their grandkids. Okay, when the stars align here, it's when we're passing through this belt again, and that's when it's going to rain down hell from the sky. Because that has happened. We have had regional floods at the very least. Now, archaeologists did debate about whether there was a global flood, but there were regional floods. So, are some of those markings meant to warn, or like, are they done in stone on purpose because it'll last? And was it meant to show future generations, like, when this lines up again, get underground? That's interesting. One of the best, most rational arguments against his theory is that if there were these missionaries from Atlantis that had all traveled by boat to go restart civilization in all of these places, why aren't there more matching things than just the fact that there are triangles made of rocks? Like those regions stayed distinct until international trade. Like there weren't, the animals and food products of those areas stayed basically quarantined from each other until people were moving around with boats and trading with each other. So it's not like Atlanteans brought horses and apples and corn everywhere, and then all of a sudden that's where it all came from. Nothing like that matched. It all was different types of agriculture. So I think that's one of the best arguments against it. Is none of those agricultural civilizational developments ended up mirroring each other too similarly.
It's called Ancient Apocalypse. It's an 8-part series on Netflix. We're not being paid by Netflix to promote this, but I do recommend it. It is somewhat interesting.
I thought it would appeal to you because it was like a sopping wet clown walks out of the ocean just covered in seaweed and running makeup and is like trying to teach the locals how to grow tobacco and make him cigarettes.